Welcome back, folks, to House Party's 5v5 Premier League semifinals. Our two teams here, White Lightning on red side, White Lightning on blue side, and Saw on red side. The current score is 1-1 in this best of 3. It is the final game of the night. I am your play-by-play caster, Corrupt Hope, and alongside with me is our color caster, the Saved One. Saved One, what are you thinking about Game 3 right now?
We have seen so much of this series already so far. We saw in Game 1 that Saw definitely out-rotated White Lightning. They played the rotation game very well. They played their lead from the lane swap very well as well. And then going into Game 2, they did the lane swap once again, but they didn't play it as well as they did in Game 1. And they basically went back into a normal setup where the top lane went top lane, bot lane went bot lane, and White Lightning knew how to play that style of a game. They knew where to go in a normal setup, and they knew how to play their lead. And maybe I do want to see if they could do that once again going into this game.
Quite true. We do see the Poppy ban, a very strong top lane pick, along with the Rammus and Nidalee ban, two top laners in jungle they don't want to deal with. Looks like Saw switching up their strategy of triple banning, spell binding, only giving her the double ban this time, and also banning out Graves, afraid of Keanan on that powerhouse. Looks like they're going to be locking in the Thresh with the Rek'Sai. A lot of strong early game damage coming on out.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen Rek'Sai in a long time, and it's been a while. But it gets to the point where you buff and nerf so many junglers that the champions that were buffed in previous patches have came back. So what do you actually think about the Rek'Sai pick?
Well, the Rek'Sai, that's a lot of early game power. Those tunnels, the repeated ganks he can do, you can even go in mid lane, go behind their enemy rafters, tunnel underneath them, and just get a kill off that. It's a very strong early game pick, so hopefully it looks like Saw are trying to, and they're always behind in the early game. We've seen every game, even when they've lane swapped, White Lightning has always been a little bit ahead. So it looks like they might try to counteract that, switch up their team fight. Keanan, we do see locking in that Caitlyn and that Nautilus. What do you think Saw will be picking here, Sabron?
I think that at the moment they need something to counter what White Lightning is bringing out here. So we saw Alcantos on a damaged top laner in Game 1, and he was like, nope, can't do that whatsoever. So he's going to be going back, or he went into Game 2 with a tank top laner. Now, going into Game 3, he's going to be going in with the Nautilus. And White Lightning is as well going to be running the exact same bottom lane. So right here, coming out from Saw could be a top lane and an ADC pick to try and counter what spellbinding could be running mid lane. What do you actually think that we're going to be picking here?
Well, I do see the Ezreal lock-in. Probably will pick in their top laner. They're not hovering anything, not much left to imagine. We do see the Trundle lock-in, an interesting pick, as we know it is definitely Nautilus top, so I'm not sure how Trundle does into that matchup. I feel like he has a lot of stats to drain from Nautilus, I believe. But how do you think the team comp of Saw looks like right now?
It looks like a humongous powerhouse. It's a lot of strong picks. Now, we saw a couple patches ago that Trundle did get nerfed, but if he is played by the right player, he can still destroy tanks. Like, Trundle is still Trundle, regardless of what nerfs they did to him. Because if you look at the Nautilus versus Trundle matchup, or even Trundle versus any tank matchup, Trundle always wins, because he can just shred all of the tank that Alcantos is going to be offering in the top lane. We also see Gragas being locked in, I believe, for Keanan, and Spellbinding is going to be running the Lissandra once again this game. I do want to see if she can do the exact same thing like she did last game. Gunshin going to be answering with the Ziggs pick. What do you think about the Ziggs pick?
That is something we've seen Gunshin go on before. It's a nice amount of poke, good amount of wave clear, and it looks like overall they're going for this kind of stalled out team fight comp.
where they just kind of poke and siege with this Ziggs, with this Ezreal, and not look for too many hard engages. They do have a nice man disengage. You know, you do have the Threshold, you have the Trundle Pillar, Rek'Sai's mobile by himself, but on the side of White Lightning, just look at all that engage.
Yeah.
Just, what are your thoughts on it?
It's crazy because if you look at these two teams, right? I think that Saw's coming out with a comp where they want to poke and then go in. Now, we have seen this style of play before in the past, and if played by the right team, it can succeed. If you can poke first and then engage, then it works out for the right person. But we're looking over onto the side of White Lightning, and they have a humongous engage comp, so it's gonna be basically, if White Lightning can engage first, they're gonna win. But if Saw can poke and then go in, then they're gonna win. So it's gonna be literally who can play the comp better, and this is back, I believe, in the champ select of game 1. I was mentioning that most of these teams in the different regions are trying to go for a more simple style of a game, and it's basically whoever can play their comp better wins the game. If Saw knows how to play the poke and then engage comp, they're gonna win. But if White Lightning knows how to engage, which is a very simple concept, then they're gonna win. And right now, if we're talking about draft and who I predict is gonna win, I think it's gonna be White Lightning. But Saw, you guys gotta prove me wrong here. You guys need to prove me wrong and say we can poke and then go in. But it's gonna be a very action-packed game in that case.
Yeah, it definitely will be. I mean, just look at Kiona has an even better front line than last game. And if he reaches the point he did last game where he just absolutely untouched, just getting out so many damage, just getting out so much damage, it's gonna be such a problem on the side of Saw. But you know, obviously at Saw's team comp, they're not looking for these straight out team fights we saw game 1 and 2. They're more of poke, siege, and rotate. This is a team comp that Saw has pulled out even last week. It's something they're confident on. They don't look for the best fights. They just keep poking you down, out-rotate you, and get down all these objectives and win. Saw has always been an objective-based team, and it looks like they're gonna try to go back to their roots and try to prove that they can out-rotate people and just out-objective them in general to win this game.
The thing is, Saw cannot pull out a lane swap this game. And why I say that is because you ran a damage/tank top laner. Now, if you were to do the lane swap, then you would be putting your own top laner behind. But if you look at how Nautilus does in lane swaps, Nautilus does very well for himself in lane swaps. He can just farm under turret, and since he has so much tank, he can just eat up any of the damage that Muse and Rolara basically shoot at him. And Muse can't really do damage early game as Ezreal. He doesn't really spike in the early game. So doing the lane swap over on the side of Saw would be extremely bad for them. So I think just doing a normal start, just doing a normal lanes would benefit both teams in this case. But again, if you do the normal lanes, or White Lightning knows how to play with that, and they know how to get ahead with the normal lanes. I do want to see if White Lightning can come above, or any of these teams can come above in this series and maybe take Game 3 to go to the finals. We are 6 seconds left. Game 3 of the Premier League semifinals. Don't go anywhere, guys, because we're about to be right back.
Welcome back, folks, to Premier League House Parties, Premier League 5v5 playoffs. That order's wrong, but these teams aren't. We have White Lightning in on the blue side and Saw on the red side. The current score is 1-1. It's the final semi-final game
between these teams in this best of 3. I am your play-by-play caster for this last game of the night, Corrupt Hope. Alongside with me is our color caster, the Saved One. Now, the Saved One, what do you think about this game so far?
I think right now, as I like to say it when showcasted in-houses were going on, it's a lot of talk but no show. So it's gonna be just both teams trying to go into the enemy jungle or just try and get off as much poke as they really can. A very aggressive ward. Super Frank is gonna be taking that out. That was actually very surprising. But other than that, nothing really too much happening here. But as these lanes are looking in this early game, it's going to be very passive from the side of Saw in this bottom lane. Ezreal loves to just get any CS that he can. It looks like there might be a lane swap coming out here, maybe even like a double jungle strat coming out from Saw. But it's going to be very interesting to see this game and how it plays out. What do you think about this game?
It looks like Saw is going to go for the same lane swap every game. This is their strategy, you know. This is something me and you decoded throughout these games.
Yeah.
They don't want White Lightning to have this good lane swap strategy, and they're going to get punished for it because White Lightning has evolved to this. They're going to get scouted out. They see Nautilus here, but they don't know that Caitlyn and Braum are right around the corner, and they can get closed in very easily here with Braum on the backline, and that's going to happen, but it looks like there won't be too much follow-up. But now they see they're in the 2v1. Muse taking a lot of heavy damage. There is the stacks. They will not get all 4 stacks. That would have been so detrimental on the side of Saw, and they just go to regular laning. This is exactly what Saw did not want.
Yeah, we do see the double jungle strat coming out from White Lightning in this case, that Nautilus is going to be going with Gragas. It's exactly what Gragas needs in order to sustain just a little bit more, but we do see from that little bit of a skirmish going on in that river that Philly is going to be down just by a little bit of health. But one thing that is kind of detrimental over onto the side of Saw is that now Muse is down a little bit of health, Rolara is down a little bit of health, and they are forced to play passively from what they already had to play passive.
Yeah, we do see the level 2 lead, that level 2 power spike, coming out from White Lightning's bot lane, Kiona and Philly. We did see Kiona such a monster on Caitlyn last game, and now we can finally see how strong these AD carries and supports are at in their 2v2 lane, shoving them. They're not afraid of Rek'Sai right now. They know he's probably at his buffs. He's not ganking currently. Alcanto's finally reaching the bot lane. A good amount of CS down. Super Frank was able to shove that in quite a bit.
Yeah, it also kind of looks like from that level 1 kind of skirmish that even before Kiona and Philly were fighting in the river, is that Philly was actually in the top side second bush. So I think that White Lightning was actually looking for the lane swap of their own to try and shut down the Trundle just a little bit more, because they know that the Nautilus Trundle matchup doesn't really go in favor of the Nautilus, so he is going to be getting shoved into the bottom lane. So they actually tried to send the bottom lane top lane to try and shove him down. You see, bottom lane, a little bit of a fight going on here.
Yeah, that is the auto W for the auto reset, and then auto again by Nautilus. Nice little trade mechanic. But as we see, Kiona top lane looks fairly even. Muse actually has the CS lead since the wave is pushing towards him, and there's more minions in the wave than the CS differential. But another trade, these top laners are trading back and forth. But Alcantos, you can't trade when that W's down, especially in Trundle's zone. He's getting punished quite hard by Super Frank for that. Rek'Sai doing some counter jungling, might actually sneak up behind White Lightning's bot lane, which could definitely blow a flash.
Yeah, we also see Keanan maybe going back into his own jungle just to try and farm up just a little bit more. But one thing that some people, oh, we actually see Rek'Sai in the top lane.
DMX going in right behind for the gang, going in for Kiona, will knock up Braum into Braum taking the turret, but DMX is actually taking quite a bit of damage. He will be stunned out, takes that threat last year. No summoners blown, and a good play overall on the side of White Lightning. And as we see, Kianan is very close, scouting out to see if Rek'Sai was greedy enough to stay for his golems, but those aren't there, and neither is Rek'Sai.
Yeah, we're actually kind of used to seeing that Ezra doesn't really do damage in this early game, so DMX was like, alright, let's try and go top lane, maybe try and allow my bot lane to maybe try and get a lead. onto the White Lightning bottom lane, but White Lightning wasn't scared of the Rek'Sai whatsoever. They disengaged, just like they are supposed to do, and then they re-engaged with the Braum, and I think that was a very well played skirmish by White Lightning in general. It definitely wasted some time of Rek'Sai's, and we also see that Rek'Sai is going to be going for a little bit of a counter jungle. He is allowed to do that since he knows that Gragas should be in his blue side jungle, but other than that, very standard lanes coming out. There's not a lot of action going down here.
Standard button reverse, and here's Rek'Sai's early game. As we see, he might even sneak up behind Alcantos after he finishes this Golem. Looks like he will actually just go back over to his own side of the jungle, maybe secure the Dragon Pit. Lane's fairly even, but now Muse falling behind in CS. There's already almost a 10 CS differential when there wasn't before, so he's just been missing some CS. Mid lane fairly even. Spellbinding has not backed yet though, so not too much happening, save one.
Yeah, we saw that these lanes are just they're very plain. Like Kianan, the one thing I really do love about Kianan is that he knows, he's
Kiona getting hit by a hook. Here's engaged by Relara, Philly blocking and so much damage, but Kiona knows he knows he wants to get that damage on Ezreal, and he will. But that will be the disengage and not too much happening. Ziggs securing that blue buff. He has the Athenes, he has the Dorn Ring, and he's ready to spam.
Yeah, like I was talking about just before we started that fight, is that one thing I really love about Kianan is he does not waste any time trying to gank a lane that he knows he cannot gank. You saw a little bit that DMX tried to go top lane, and he tried to gank it. It was a very nice try, but there was really no show there, and I think he should have noticed that Muse doesn't really do damage in this early game. But we haven't really seen Kianan, and one of the main reasons is because he's trying to rush that level 6 in order to try and get that Gragas power spike where he can try and have an impact even more in these ganks that he's trying to offer. We might see the junglers actually meet in the river here.
Yeah, looks like they will connect. Neither of them level 6, actually DMX is level 6. He does have the XP lead, even though he has been ganking out. Kanto's taking very heavy damage in the top lane. That will be the club. Clubbing down Alcantos with the first blood. Solo kill coming out from Super Frank.
That is not what you want when you're in a solo lane like that. Like if you die and you're kind of switched lanes like that, you're putting Trundle at an advantage. You also see top lane.
But now top lane is in trouble. DMX taking the lantern will be denied by Philly. Here's the teleport in from Alcantos. Looks like the hook will not connect. A nice flash by DMX, wasting Alcantos' time. And he will just miss more CS as the bot lane wave is completely pushed against him.
Yeah, you also see mid lane Gunshin, a little bit overextended in the mid lane, but is offering a lot of poke. You see Kianan actually answering that with a mid lane gank of his own.
He is spotted out by that ward though, and Gunshin will hop away to safety on his little Yordle legs.
Yeah, but overall, a very nice try in the top lane by both teams. You saw that Saw tried to play with Ezreal's kind of early game type of power spike and tried to get enough damage onto White Lightning's bottom lane, but White Lightning had a lot of answers to that. And one of those answers was the top lane Nautilus TP. So Nautilus tried to TP, actually got DMX's flash. So it was a very even trade from both sides. But one thing, again, in this bottom lane, Super Frank does have a kill underneath his belt. He's actually going for a more offensive Trundle build. He's going to be going, I believe, for that Titanic Hydra. Going to be giving him a lot of damage, a lot of tankiness in this bottom lane. Other than that, jungler's playing it very passively, just going to be taking out some of the camps. We could see a little bit of bottom lane.
Muse taking some trades in the top lane. Alcantos just getting some far. He needs to be afraid bot lane. He did just solo die, but other than that, not too much happening. Kianan has had absolutely zero map presence so far. He is level 7, so hopefully we'll see some ganks coming out, or possibly some counter ganks, but he needs to do something soon to be relevant on this map.
Yeah, I think if you actually look at Gragas' itemization just a little bit, I believe he's actually going to be going for the Runic Echoes to try and make up for the damage that he does need to do in these different fights. You see Super Frank in the bottom lane.
Alcantos taking a lot of damage. The pillar does stop him, but Kianan has the flank. He's going completely around Super Frank won't even be able to see him because the ward is not in range. Looks like he's gonna have to commit to the dive, and it will work. Keanan completely failing his ultimate in a horrible misplay on the side of Keanan. Alcantos died for that bait, and it's going to cost them quite a bit.
Yeah, that was just absolutely crazy. Super Frank was not afraid whatsoever of Keanan. I believe he just saw him a little bit from that ward that was in the river. So Super Frank was like, alright, I've committed onto Nautilus this far, let's keep committing. And he just did a crap ton of damage, basically just emphasizing my point of it does a lot of,
and now Relara getting those Braum stacks on him will not get proc. Philly taking a lot of damage on the side of Muse. This blue build Ezreal is fairly strong. Spellbinding, trying to dodge these bombs to secure this pink ward. Will not, but will secure the pink ward, taking very heavy damage that Ziggs is spamming a lot. And Super Frank, once again, solo getting the turret, proving to be the top lane terror in the bot lane.
Yeah, you also see Keanan.
Will connect with DMX. There is the full combo blade to 50%. Now Spellbinding is coming in. DMX does not have flash. This is very dangerous for him. Gunsham trying to get some damage down, threatening to kill, but DMX will fall, and now Gunsham is in trouble. He will satchel charge away to safety, and a nice pickup by White Lightning.
Yeah, we also see, again, going back to that Gragas point, he will be going for the Runic Echoes to try and do a lot of damage, and we just saw in that fight that he does do a decent amount of damage, and he just got a kill onto that Rek'Sai, so he is going to be going back to base with 500 gold, and maybe even just a little bit more if he can allow this bottom lane from White Lightning just to push the top lane. Doesn't look like he's going to be going top lane to try and help them push it, but he's just going to be going back into his jungle, maybe looking for something mid?
Maybe so. Rek'Sai securing his own jungle. Not too much action happening. 3 kills in only 13 minutes. Not the lane swapping, edge of our seat, turrets falling game that we had last game. Although fairly falling our seat, but looks like we will see the first dragon at 12:40. They're going to be starting that fairly late, considering they've been starting them at 5:40 to 6 minutes in game 1 and game 2. But Muse, Philly's protecting that pink ward with his life for not much of a cause, though, as they will secure it regardless. And the first dragon going over on the side of Saw.
Yeah, it's definitely going to give him some AD edge, some damage edge. And you also see that White Lightning is kind of getting a little bit bored. They're maybe yawning just like you did there. And maybe coming bottom lane to try and do something, but we also see the standard lanes coming back once again. You see that Trundle is going to be going top lane along with Nautilus to try and answer that, along with bottom lane going back to their rightful position of bottom lane. But he's definitely trying to take over that bush to try and get some harass onto Saw's bottom lane. You see a fight.
Aggression in the ball lane. Relara stepping very far forward, not punished for it, but DMX is here, and here's the teleport in from Trundle. Kyona's in so much trouble. He needs to stall for the Nautilus, and he has, but it's still a 4v2. It's a very bad teleport in by Alcantos. Should have realized they were dead. And another huge misplay on the side of White Lightning. Alcanto 0-3, and now some aggression in the mid lane. Very unfortunate for White Lightning right now.
They tried to force that way too hard. They did not respect, or White Lightning at least did. They did not respect the amount of damage that Saw has to offer here. They didn't really notice that Ezreal now has the Merman, so he's now kind of a lot more useful than he was in that level 1, level 2 spot where DMX did try to gank top lane. And we do see that they rotated bottom side, a very nice TP play by Saw, very nice communication overall. They got that bottom lane turret plus a couple kills for their troubles. It looks like they want to try and rotate mid to try and get that last tier 1 tower.
That they will. Gunshin once again chucking those bombs left and right, and you know, although Saw had a little of the more spread out team comp, they're about to hit their power spike once Ziggs and Ezreal hit this mid game, and it will just scale more as they go into late game with this bomb and Q spam. Well, Q spam from each of them. Bombs and mystic shots are going to be flying left and right.
Yeah, this is definitely a more slower game coming out from both teams, but the game's not over yet. So it's only a 4K deficit we see in mid lane.
An engage in coming in from DMX, nothing connecting though. Relara hooking the Braum, not exactly who we wanted, still getting a lot of damage down. Braum getting knocked quite a bit far back. Keanu going in for the engage, will not drop the ultimate though. Questionable as Trundle was not there, neither was Alcantos, but I think in a 4v4 scenario, White Lightning, that would have been a good fight.
Yeah, definitely would have been a good fight. They maybe could have got 1 or 2 kills there without the Trundle being in there, without the big threat. Even though Ezreal was there trying to apply some poke, he hasn't really reached his gauntlet power spike, and that's exactly where Ezreal shines, because he just tries to poke in the backline as much as he can while doing a ton of damage. And now we do see Saw trying to play their lead even more by getting the Rift Herald. It's going to allow them to shut these lanes even more than they were before. But other than that, Alcantos is just trying to catch up back bottom. We see a little bit of a CS deficit by him versus the Trundle. He's just trying to catch back up. He also has 3 deaths underneath his belt, so he's just trying to get tanky, trying to get that Sunfire Cape just in time, and maybe try and pack some impact in these fights.
But he needs to be on the run because Super Frank is hungry for some Nautilus solo killing, and he might just get it. Keanu rushing in the bot lane will try to stop this. Super Frank seeing what's happening as Alcantos is going back on the aggressive, but he's just denying so much CC. But he's the one in trouble. Here comes the Zigzag doing quite a bit of damage, but there's a spellbinding lockdown, and he's still not falling. Keanu with the barrel dunk will finally end that. Philly decides to jump into the bomb, because why not? But meanwhile, Saw securing a top lane inner turret.
Yeah, it's exactly what White Lightning needed. They need these type of kills. They need this type of gold in order to try and get back into this game. We see that Keanu at this point is 100% kill participation. So at this point in the game, it's all up to Keanu. Can he land the ults that he needs to land? Can he be the impact that he does need to be? All these answers or questions will be answered. We see mid lane.
But engage onto mid lane. Relara getting taking a lot of damage, getting slammed back into the wall multiple times. He will fall. Just like the theme of the first game of Relara getting ulted by Vi, it will continue this game.
Yeah, and we also see this is exactly where White Lightning's team comp as well comes into play, along with the power spike coming out from Saw, is that they love team fighting. They love getting these type of picks, and if they can get enough picks, if they can get more kills onto the carries that are on White Lightning, maybe they can come back. It's a very close game at the moment. It's a 4-ish K lead going over onto the side of Saw. And I think that White Lightning at this point is playing their disadvantage pretty well. They're only going for picks that they need to. And I think that if Saw wants to play their lead even more, they need to go for these objectives, like you were saying, where they're a very objective styled team. And we can fully see that from the 4 towers that they have taken this game.
Yeah, that is quite true. 4-1 in turrets. White Lightning has a sizable amount down, but they just don't have the kills on who they need to. We don't need the kills on Keanu and on the Gragas. You want them on Kiona and Spellbinding, especially Kiona after what we saw he did last game. He does have that Runons working toward that IE. Once he gets that IE, he will be a huge threat, but it looks like we're going to have the first dragon fight. Spellbinding is going B. I don't know if that's the best decision right now, as she will not be there for the team fight, but neither will Gunshot as he's ulting top lane, so they know he's not there. They don't know where he is right now. It looks like they're just going to go ahead and give up this dragon. Kiona going to look for that dragon steal, and he steals it! Oh my god! Kiona, you madman! Stop it! Stop it! Damn, Daniel! Holy crap, Kiona! He's the one to watch this game, man. Oh.
Alright. One thing with the damn Daniel thing that's been going around is my name's actually Daniel. So I've been getting messages left and right from different people. I actually got it from my teacher. My teacher even was just like, "Damn, Daniel," and it annoys me, but it's a really funny meme from different people. But going back to this game, Caitlyn played that very well. She timed the Q, and she obviously got that dragon. So I had my whole entire prep for the whole second dragon. Oh, you actually see a fight here.
And a great, and the Relara getting ulted once again. The theme continues. Will he be able to make it out? Spellbinding going in, trying to finish the kill. There is the Caitlyn, all blocked by DMX, who's knocked out. Alcantos in the middle of everyone. DMX getting ulted by Spellbinding. I don't know if that's the best choice, but if they do finish the kill, it is DMX. Will fall, and Kiona's doing so much damage. Super Frank trying to catch him. Will munch down onto Philly. Alcantos is the one who's caught, and now these extended fights always favor the poke team. Kiona will fall, and this might just be an ace. Kiona will escape in a great team fight turnaround out of nowhere on the side of Saw.
Yeah, one of the deficits that White Lightning kind of faced here is that all 3 kills that they had were on Keonan. So all of White Lightning is like, all right, Keonan, do your thing. And he's like, well, I'm trying, but where's the follow-up? And then he's kind of left at a point where he doesn't really have any follow-up because all of the damage is on him and it's not really coming and showing from his team. So maybe giving a couple kills over to his team could have benefited him just a little bit more. But it was a very well played fight by Saw, noticing that White Lightning's mistakes and positioning mistakes in that fight, and that's basically how the fight went.
That is very true. And as we see Caitlyn just farming out that top lane, just getting in all that farm, Kiona trying to get big again. And this is what Wild needs to be careful of, because now Ziggs has the items, he has the Luden's Echo, he has the City Boots, he's going to be getting that Athene's once he backs, and Ezreal already has the build out. That Mana Mune is stacked at 645 out of 750. He will be completing it fairly soon into a Mormana. He has the QSF, so he's already insanely hard to catch, so this is going to be really challenging on the side of White Lightning to now kill Ezreal and Ziggs.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy because Ezreal has such a front line, so even aside of the amount of escapes that Muse has once the flash comes up, the QSS that he has, and even Ezreal's E, he's just going to have so many escapes in these different fights, and it's going to allow him to kite whatever he does need to kite. And it actually combos very well with what Rek'Sai actually built. He actually built that Randu and Zoman to add on to the amount of slows that Saw does have. And now we see that Alcantos is trying to push bottom just a little bit with the ZZ Rot portal that he built. He's actually forced to build the ZZ Rot. Usually Nautilus's go Sunfires into ZZ Rot, but he was actually forced to build the ZZ Rot mainly because Trundle is packing so much of a punch in this bottom lane with the amount of split push threat that he does have.
Yeah, that will speed up in considerable amount as Saw are threatening now this mid lane turret. They don't even want to do Baron. They have the siege, they have the poke to already threaten this inhibitor turret without it, but the minion wave is still very far off. Looks like they're going to split up, do the 4-1 push, put Trundle in the bot lane as not many people can actually 1v1 him, possibly Alcantos under his turret, but he has 0 kill pressure onto Super Frank.
Yeah, it's actually kind of looking very sad for White Lightning coming into this mid game. Corrupt, what do you think White Lightning needs to do here to try and at least come back into this game, or at least try and close the gold deficit?
Well, with their pick composition, their chance of a win condition is getting a pick on probably one just during the rotation or like onto someone. You know, you have Gragas, you have Nautilus, you have Lissandra, you have Braum, you have all this engaged, you just need to use it. We saw last team fight, they wasted a lot of it onto Rek'Sai, onto Super Frank, when you need to be catching this Ezreal, you need to be catching this Ziggs while protecting Kiona. And it is kind of tough, but they just need to play their team comps to its strengths and hard counter the disengaged siege comp that Saw has.
Yeah, like, to add on to your point about Kiona, in that last fight we did see that he actually picked himself up a kill, so he is gonna be packing just a little bit more of a punch than he usually does. But again, going back to what I was saying in Champion Select, is that Saw is playing this comp very well. They're poking first and then they're going in. It's actually forcing Braum to build an armor item, which is Frozen Heart, and I don't even know if that's the best choice at the moment, mainly because we see that Saw actually has a lot of poke, and maybe building a more health item could help him just survive a lot more in the fight to come. We see Kiana.
But Kiana is caught out in the mid lane, face checking the bush. A huge misplay on the side of White Lightning, as now 4 members of Saw can secure this Baron, and with 8k down, this is not looking good for White Lightning. Your only person who could steal the Baron, Kianan, fell, and Kiona isn't near behind the walls to steal it with Q. So this is going to be a definite Baron guarantee for Saw.
Yeah, this is exactly what a Baron setup should look like. You see that Trundle is just so much more ahead of Nautilus, so he's allowed to be pushed up this far. You see that top lane as well as pushing. You see the amount of wards that Saw has in the enemy blue jungle. And also Dragon's up. So this is going to be Dragon number 2, and Dragon number 2 recently received a buff where it's going to give you extra tower pushing, extra damage to towers. So the threat of Super Frank becomes doubled. The threat of the rest of the team becomes doubled as well. And not even to mention the Baron that they have. This is going to be an extremely hard game to come back from. We see that Saw is 10k gold ahead. 26 minutes in, finally picking up that Dragon number 2. They will be rotating over to mid lane to try and get that inhibitor. And yeah.
Yeah, not too much happening as we hit the later part of mid game. As we see Ezreal and Ziggs 0 deaths, completely untouched every fight, and it looks like that trend will continue as their front line is getting bigger and bigger. Super Frank has just been this unkillable monster in these team fights as Trundle, and I'm struggling to see how White Lightning can get out of this unless we really see Kiona just have some really good positioning and completely carry a fight.
Yeah, basically all Saw has to do in order for White Lightning to get back into this game is basically just running the base one by one. But I think from what we've been seeing of Saw's rotational play and just their team play in general, they've played a very good series in general. They struggled a little bit in game 2. In game 1, they played that rotation game very well. And if they can replicate that in this game 3, but not to mention though, that White Lightning has a very nice wave clear style comp where you've got Spellbind and Kiana, and then you also have the Kiana threat of that Runon's Hurricane. She also finished that IE, so she's going to be trying to do a lot of damage. You see Super Frank in the bottom lane going pretty hard.
We do see the 4-1 push putting in those turrets. Super Frank just ignoring Alcantos, and that's the problem here. You have no kill pressure onto Super Frank, completely ignoring him, just taking down this turret, healing up so much with that ultimate, and now he wants to go for the inhibitor. Kiana's going in for the engage. The ultimate completely fails. All 3 members getting dragged into the AoE cluster. That is Ezreal, Ziggs, so I get hit very low. Kiona getting flashed on by DMX, and this looks like a huge trouble on the side of White Lightning. The Ziggs all picking up Lissandra, and this looks like game over for White Lightning. Super Frank going down onto this turret, 30-second death timers to 40 seconds on the side. Alcantos, the last member remaining. P2 might just fall. Do it for the KDA. Gunshot not letting him go into base. He will miss the hook. And with that, folks, the last game of the night, semifinals. White Lightning versus Saw. Saw taking a decisive game 3 and moving on to the finals.
4 to 15, 41k to 56k, 28 minutes into this game. Saw, you guys are going to be moving on to the finals, facing Neverclucky to try and become the Premier League champions.